Yesterday we were looking at percentages. So we did the first type yesterday. We've been going a little slow the last couple classes, but that's good because we're not in a rush, and I don't want to do too much before you guys have a test on Thursday. Now, your test on Thursday, it's only on chapters 1 and 2. So this stuff about percentages won't be there. And in tomorrow's class, hold on, I have you guys tomorrow at, well, 8:30. We can look at some review and do some practice problems. So let's look at type 2 today, finding the percentage when giving two numbers. Pretty straightforward. I got a private message here about receiving your email. I got like a lot of emails, so I don't know what you mean. Let me just see. Oh yeah, no. So I just saw your email. I did see that yesterday. You don't have to bring a medical note for missing class ever. I mean, you can if you want to. You need a medical note if you miss something like a lab or a test. That's the big ones. You can bring a note in, that's no problem, but you don't need to. And then I have another private message. Yes, all of Unit 1 and Unit 2 is the test. So Units 1 and 2. Okay. So finding the percentage when given two numbers. So there's an example at the top. Well, okay, let me read the first thing. Again, we've been practicing turning these statements into, or turning the question into a math equation. It is important to note one thing here, and this is something you guys should have a little bit of practice with. When you find the percentage when you're given two numbers, it will give you the answer in decimal form. And you guys have to change that to the percentage. But like you have been doing this since you started being a student, probably, maybe, like, I don't know. Sometimes I have to mark like 50, 60, 70 tests in a day or two. And I might not write the percent on every test. The computer would calculate the percent for me, but like, on the top right-hand side of like I'm thinking of like chemistry labs or something, it might say 17 out of 21. And you guys should know how to convert that into a percent. I don't know why I picked such weird numbers, but this would be an 81. So my calculator would say 0.809. So you would get an 81%, and the computer would do that for me. So let's look at this a little more in detail. And just let me check the chat before I get really started. Okay, perfect. Okay. So the first example there, 5 is what percent of 20? Now that's kind of a confusing way of saying what is, 5 over 20. But the reason I like the question being said like this is you can take that sentence and turn it into a math equation. So every word, every number can be written as a part of an equation. So think about it. 5 is means equal. What percent? That's usually in math, we would use an X or a Y or something to represent an unknown. Of means multiply. 20. That's what that means, that sentence. 5 is, so 5 equals, what percent? That's X. Of means multiply. Remember, I mentioned this yesterday. If you see the word is, it means equals. If you see the word of, it means 20. All right, so we solve this equation for x. Now note that we will get a decimal and we change that to percent. We did that yesterday. We would multiply by 100. All right, so let's look at a few. I'll do a couple practice problems. You guys do a couple practice problems, and then we'll go down into type 3. All right, I'll just start with an easy one. Well, they're all pretty easy. It's just that, some of these numbers are very straightforward. Some of these numbers are decimals. But 36, let me zoom in too. That way I can write a little bit bigger. 36 is what percent of 60? Now, by the way, guys, you don't need to show me this in the future. This is obviously not on the first test, but in the future, you do not need to show me this step. So really what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to figure out what 36 over 60 is. That's all you really need. Well, you don't even really need to show me that. The only problem is if you make a mistake, I can't give you part marks. So I would like to see this part at least. Now, that's not the answer, by the way. We're almost there. The answer to this would be 60%. Sorry, I wrote a little bigger than I needed to there. Okay, let's look at another one. Like number 4, or number 2 even, is worded a little different. What percent of 54 is 72? That's an interesting one. And this is why I like the method where we take the English sentence and convert it into a math equation. It is like 8:15 in the morning, but like if somebody asked me that, it would be a little confusing. What percent of 54 is 72, right? What would I do? Well, I'm just going to set up an equation. So what percent, that's x of means multiply, 54 equals 72. So x is 72 over 54. And there we go. And again, guys, you don't need to show me every step there. I just find this really helps for some of these word problems. Later, we're going to apply this to like a pharmaceutical or medical kind of situation. It's kind of like chemistry a bit later on. We're going to be like calculating concentration percents. And I find this really helps. So you'll notice I get a pretty weird answer here, but it was a pretty weird question. The answer is 133%, or if you want to be really fancy, 133.3 repeated. It's over 100%, and that's sometimes confusing to students. But you can have 200%, 600%. It just means that this number is bigger than the original number, which can happen, if you look at like maybe not a medical, like a chemistry situation, but a monetary situation, prices can increase by 100% or 200%. So even though it's over 100, it is pretty normal. Okay, so why don't you guys take a couple minutes to practice this? Yeah, I know it's early, but why don't you try a couple, like maybe you could do 3 and 4. If you have time, you could always try 5 and 6. You don't need to do them all, but just see if you can do a couple of these. I do highly recommend trying 3 and 4 because they're like the 2 types that you would see the most. And as usual, I'll be back in a couple minutes and we'll check your answers and we'll move into type 3. All right, just another minute or two. Let me check your answers. Ooh, Asma giving me all of them. Okay, so that's perfect. Reem, Kalsum. All right, let's check. You guys are very quick, so I'll just go right through and do these. Okay, now, again, you do not need to set up an equation if you're comfortable with this. So, 132 is what percent of 22? So this would be 132 over 22, and you'd get your answer. Yeah, okay. Just want to make sure I'm doing that right. So my this is again another interesting answer. My calculator is telling me 6. And, if you wrote that on a test or an assignment or whatever, you wouldn't get full marks. You'd have to say that it's 600%. Let me go back to the chat and see if anybody said that. Yep. Okay, cool. All right. Number 4, what percent of 120 is 6? So this one is a little bit more normal. I think it's just 5%. Yep. Perfect. Now that one, number 4, is a little bit more like what we will see soon when we get into some of like the more pharmacy type questions. You'll be making a lot of things, could be ointments or solutions or compounds, which will have percents like under 10. So that's a pretty common one. Okay, anyways, I was going to go down a tangent there, but I won't. It's too early. 39 is what percent of 18? So again, don't need to see all these steps, but I'm just doing it because it helps. This is what I was saying yesterday that I wish I had known when I was learning about percents a long, long time ago. Would have helped me a little bit, turning a word problem into an equation. So for this one, 200. And now I'm not picky. This isn't chemistry. You could say 217%. You could say 216.6 repeated. Like, it really doesn't matter for me. I wouldn't say 200. You could probably get away with rounding it to 220, but 217 would be a good answer for me. All right, last one. I don't know why I picked to do all 6 of these, but anyways, what percent of 1150 is 2950? This is a nice one. So let's see. Even though there's decimals here, I mean, it doesn't change anything. Oh, guys, another way to write this, by the way, this is kind of how we would do this in chemistry, is to just multiply it by 100 in the equation. Like as long as you get the answer, or as long as you can do this, I don't really care how it looks, because a lot of math teachers wouldn't even set this up like an equation. They would just get you guys to solve the numbers. So however you can represent this is fine by me. So I get 2.56. I'm going to multiply that by 100. Hold on, let me do that again. I might have put a number in wrong on my calculator. Yep, I did. Okay. So I get 256.5%. Again, you could say 256.5, or you could just keep it simple, 257%. Whatever. Not really looking for sig figs here. All right, cool. Let's move on to type 3. So this type of problem is when we have the percentage and the percent. I'll explain kind of what that means in a second, but we need to find the original number. This is probably the weirdest type, but it's, the third one we're going to look at in this course. The easiest thing to do, I guess, is just to practice it. So let's look at number 1. 160 is 250% of what number? Now, again, at 8:30 in the morning, could be tough to think about this. 160 is 250% of what number? So, what do you put on the numerator? What do you put on the denominator? What do we multiply? Well, the easiest thing is to turn this into an equation. So 160 is 250%. Now, I'm not actually going to use that percent. I'll talk about that in a second. Which means multiply, what number. So every aspect of that sentence I've converted into the equation. Now, one thing, and this is really important, and you should remember this from other courses, don't use percents in your calculations. We always change this to decimals. So change to decimal. Okay. Now, there is a way to do this on a calculator. I mean, most calculators have a percent button. So which I've never used in my life. I don't think I've used the percent button. I guess I'm a little old school. We were just told to divide it by 100, which is what the percent button on your calculator does. I've had students in the past who are more comfortable using the percent button. I don't even see one on the Casio, but I know where the one is on my TI-84. Oh, I see it. It's above the parentheses. So like if you look above the 8 and the 9, there you can see the second function of the button is a percent button. So you can put these percentages in on your calculator. I don't know. Well, I won't show you my calculator, but I'll show you the picture of the calculator. Hold on now. I should just have this like saved so I can open it up quicker. Ooh, that's a good version of that image. Maybe not. Oops. But if I share my screen here, it is a little blurry, the picture, but you can see where the percent button is. You're more than welcome to use it. But again, I just divide the number by 100. So whatever you're comfortable with. But if you put that, if I put 250% into the calculator, it will actually divide it by 100 for me. So up to you, whatever you want to do. I'm a bit more old school. So when I had a calculator, I didn't really have a percent button. Well, I'm sure it was there, but our teachers never told us what to do with it. So to solve this question, I'm going to rearrange and solve for x. So this would be 160 over 2.5. And I'll get my answer. So my original number was 64. So what this question is saying is, if you had the number 64 and increased it by 250%, it would equal 160. So that's kind of what this question is saying. So let me do another one. I think these are all pretty much worded the same. Number 1 and 2 are worded a little differently. So number 2 says 50 is, oh no, it is worded the same. And number 4 is worded differently. I'll do number 4 in a second. 35% of what number? So again, change that to a decimal. X would be 50 over 0.35, and you'd get your answer. Oops. Okay, 143, or my calculator says 142.85. I'm just going to say 143. Okay, number 4 is worded a little differently. Number 4 says 1.25% of, which means multiply, what number is 1.2? I like this one. It's worded, or like it creates a very simple equation. So x is going to be 1.2 divided by, now 1.25% would be 0.00125. And that's it. All right, so sorry, I just want to make sure that was okay. Just 125. And I get 96. Yeah, 1.25% of 96 would be around 1.2. That makes sense. Thank you, Mecca. And thank you, Kalsum. I saw your message earlier about the percentage button that turns it into the decimal. So again, I never really explained this the other day because it's not a button I use very much. And by that, I mean ever. But this button here, like I had circled earlier, will actually change a percent to a decimal. So like if what I would do is say, I could go 250, and then I would press shift parentheses, and it would put percent there. And then if you hit equals, it would actually tell you, well, it would actually give you a fraction, which you could then convert to the decimal 2.5. So feel free to experiment with your calculator, right? Like most of the things I've figured out on my calculator is because I used to mess around with it. You know, is there an easier way I can do something? And I try. Okay, so speaking of messing around on your calculators, why don't you guys try a couple of these? So I'll zoom out just a little bit so you can see my workings. Why don't you try a couple of these? Like 3, you could do 5. I mean, why not do 6? And then we'll move on to another thing. This whole chapter is about percentages, but we're going to kind of move into something a bit more applicable. So I'll be back in 3 or 4 minutes if you guys want to try 3, 5, and 6. Okay. Okay, it was quiet at first, but I'm getting some answers now. So, um, Kalsum, Asthma are giving me some answers there. That's really good. They look to be the same ream answers. This usually means if the answers are the same, then you guys are right, is typically what that means. So let's check and see if the students in the chat got this right. Oh, Maca as well. Okay, cool. So let's see. 600 is 25% of what number? So x would be 600 over 0.25. And there we go. So that's 2400. Okay, is that what people got? Yep. No, a student just wrote me, no problem if you're late, that's fine. No problem at all. Okay, so what about number 4? Or sorry, we already did number 4. What about number 5? 150% of what number is 36? So this would be 36 over 1.5. Just for the student who came in late, and just for anybody a little confused, if I'm not hearing much, I mean, I know it's early, but if anybody's having problems with this, or like maybe you're looking at this and wondering, where did the 1.5 come from? Just remember, I am changing these percents to decimals by dividing by 100, which is what we did last day or Sunday in class. We looked at like how to change decimals to percents, percents to decimals, fractions to percents. We did all that on Sunday. Okay. So 0.5% of what number is 1? Ooh, this one's interesting. So 1 over, again, I'm dividing by 100, so this would be 0.005. Okay, so this should be like 5%, I guess. Or sorry, way bigger, 200%. Or not percent, but 200. So a 0.5% of 200 is 1. Perfect. All right, let me just check the chat. I want to see if everybody did this. Yep. So everybody, Maca, Reem, Asma, Kalsum, the students who put the answers in, that was perfect. Okay, let's do maybe at least one more thing. I have another class at 9:30, and they have a test coming up, so I'm gonna make sure I'm kind of ready for them. But we can do something else. Well, okay. Practice 9 here is just mixed examples. What I probably won't worry about mixed examples, so I think I will move into practice 10. But one thing I'll mention about page 10. So guys, page 10, you guys can try this on your own. This is just mixed practice. But one thing I'll mention is, and obviously your test on Thursday doesn't include percents, but in the future, when you're practicing or studying, in something like this where they're all mixed, it is probably a good idea to use the equation method rather than try to memorize, what number is divided by what number. So I highly encourage you guys practice number 9 on your own. If you can do this question, you'll be perfect for this type of question on a test or whatever. Oops. So try this one on your own. Let's look at, well this is pretty much where we'll finish today. This is something that I actually teach when I do teach this course in business math. So this is something that a lot of my business students use all the time, the percent increase and decrease. This is, the how much a number increases or decreases over time as a percentage. So if you look at like something like an investment, right? If you invest money, a lot of people these days are talking about investing and things like Bitcoin and crypto and all that. You could look at these things and they would have a percentage next to them. Like it would say plus 5% or minus 0.3%. And that's the amount that the share or the price has went up or down. If you're not into that, you see this all the time, and not so much in the Middle East, but I see this back home all the time. Is if there's a sale, you would see like, 50% off store wide today, meaning every price is being decreased by 50%. It's basically half price for that day. I find in the Middle East, I see sales written as reals a lot more. Like you'll walk into Monoprix and it'll just like have the price crossed out and it'll just say 30 reals instead of 40. But a lot of times for the big sales, Ramadan or Eid, you might see this. It might say like everything is 30% off. So that would be an example of a percent increase, or in that case, a decrease. So problems that involve a change are identified by words such as increased. You might see less than, you might see more than, or you might see decreased. The amount of the change is added or subtracted to the original number. So what you have to do here is you have to be careful again with the language of the question. And what I mean is look for words like increased or less than, because they're going to tell you if the number is going up or down, which is really, really important for a question like this. All right, sorry, I was just checking something there. Okay, so let's look at one or two of these. It says 36 is increased by 25%. What is the number? Now, there's actually a few ways to do this, and I'm surprised the book doesn't give you a formula. So there's kind of like the quick way, and then there's the slow but like logical way. All right, so maybe I'll show you both, and you guys can pick whatever you're comfortable with. But I know when I teach this in business, there is a formula that they use, but I'm not seeing it in your book, which is fine because it's actually pretty easy to do without a formula. Okay, so let's start with the classic traditional way. 36 is increased by 25%, or 36 increased by 25% is what number? So I can do this in two parts. First thing I can do is figure out what is 25% of 36. So 36, I'm going to multiply that by 25%, and I'm going to figure out what that number is. So 36 times decimal 25 would give me a 9. So guys, just remember 36, I'm multiplying it by a decimal 25. That's 9. But here's the thing. It's not answering the question. 36 is being increased by 25%. So I'm trying to figure out what my new number is. So then what I would do is I would take my original number and add 9 to it, and I would get 45. So 36 increased by 25%. That's basically saying 36 plus 9 is what number? 36 plus 9 is 45. Now, there is another way to think about this. What you can actually do is take the 36 and you could multiply this by 125%. Now, where did I get that number? I'm taking the 36. I'm taking 100% of the 36, and I'm increasing it by 25%. So the new price will actually be the old price, 100%, 36, and that 25. So there is a quick way, and the big reason that I am so familiar with the quick way is because we have taxes back home, sales tax. They might, depending on where you live, might be 13, 15%, and they don't put them in with the prices. So, which I don't really understand why, but a lot of things, like if you went and bought like, some candy or some chips at the store, it would say 99 cents. But when you actually paid for it, it would be over $1 because of the sales tax. So when I'm home all the time, I'll typically have to take the price of something and multiply it by, if the tax was 15%, I would multiply it by 115. This will give you the same number, by the way. So you can do whatever one you want. Just remember, when it's a percent decrease, the number is subtracted. So we'll look at a couple more of these. Look at number 2. What number is 40% less than 75? Okay, so this is a decrease. And what I'm trying to do is, first I'm going to figure out what is 40% of 75. So 40% of 75. Okay, so 0.4 times 75. Okay, let's see what I get. So 0.4 times 75, I get 30. But now remember, it's asking what number is 40% less than 75. So what I'm going to do is then I'm going to take the 75 and subtract 30. And then I would get my answer. 45. Ah, they were both 45. That's funny. Now, another way I could do this is, okay, so I have 75 and I'm trying to figure out what it would be if it was 40% less. So what I could do is take that 75 and I could multiply it by 100% minus 40%. So 75 times 60%. And then I would get also 45. If you're looking at the one up above, if you're wondering where I got that 25 or 125, 36 times 100 plus 25, that's where I get the 125. So you'll notice for a percent increase, I'm adding the number. For a percent decrease, I'm subtracting the number. And whatever way you're comfortable with, you can show me. So why don't you guys try some of this? Number 3, number 4. No, there's a lot of them. I'd like you to do at least 1% increase and 1% decrease before we finish today. So let me zoom out here. Oh, it's too bad. I just, sorry. Oh, wait, I might be able to fix this. What I'm saying is it's too bad that the questions are split like this. Yeah. Whenever I do 2-page view, it never actually works out like I want it to. Okay. Sorry. All right. I'm just trying to get it. So there we go. That's probably about as good as I can get it. Why don't you guys try some of these? So 3, 4, and 5. And I'll be back in a couple minutes and we'll look at the answer. So give 3, 4, and 5 a turn. Remember, you can do it in 2 steps or 1 step, whatever you want, whatever you're comfortable with. But try 3, 4, and 5. And we'll look at the answers, and then that will be it for today. All right, I'm getting lots of answers for number 3, and everybody's saying 560, which seems good. Um, Again, what you're doing, if you're doing number 3, is you're looking to see what is 250% of 160. Actually, number 3 is a bit of an interesting one for a setup. So again, keep going. Try at least number 4. And the reason I picked number 5 is so you could do a percent decrease. All right, so I'll be back. Keep trying. All right, I'm about to go through the answers. Sorry, I got a lot of people who answered 3, but not 4 and 5, which is okay. I'll show you the answers soon. And I got a private message saying Unit 3 is like Unit 2. Kind of similar. I mean, we're doing percentages, but yeah, I guess you could see some similarities. So just finish up whatever one you're working on. What I can do is I can put the answers up and then I'll show you where they come from in a second. So for number 4, you should get 240%. For number 5, you should get 16.67%. Okay, and I'll show you where those answers come from in a minute. So just take maybe one more minute, finish off what you're working on, and I'll show you where these come from. Okay. So let's look at these answers here. Let me get rid of this. All right, let's have a look now. As somebody, I think it was Kalsum in the chat, mentioned they were stuck at number 4. I'll show you where all these come from. They can be a little tricky in the way that they're worded. Because what you need to do is there's typically 2 steps here. You need to think about the change in price, if is it going up, is it going down, and then kind of consider the original number with that. So let's look at number 3. Number 3 says, how much is $160 increased by 250%? Okay, so the first thing you need to do is to figure out what is 250% of 160. So I'm going to try and figure out 250% of 160. So I'm going to take the 160 and I'm going to multiply it by 2.5, which is 250%. And this means it's 400. So what this means is I'm increasing the price by 400. So to answer this question, $160, plus $400 would be $560. So if anybody was looking at the chat there and they noticed a few students had 560, that comes from the 400 is the price increase, and then we have to add that to the original price. Hopefully, when you guys are using these numbers, like your pharmacy technicians, the cash register can do this. Most of these percent discounts are done automated or automatically. So number 4, $425 is what percent more than $125? So, well, first thing I need to do is figure out what was the percent increase. So I need to figure out, $425 is what percent more than $125? I won't use brackets there because I haven't really been using brackets most of this day. So first things first, I need to figure out what this percentage is. Okay, and I'll get a decimal when I do this. 425 divided by 125 is 3.4. or what we would say 340%. Now, where did the answer, if you guys are looking at the answers, by the way, are on D2L. This isn't the actual answer. This is the total increase. What the question's asking is what percent more is it than the original price? So if you said this on a test, you're almost there. 340, you're so close. 340 is the total new price, or the total increase, we'll say. But the question is saying, how much more percent is it than the original? The original price is 100%. So 340% minus the original price would give us the answer, 240%. If you said 340, you're so close. But again, it's the problem with like the language in the question. 340 is no, I shouldn't say total increase down there. It's like the total final price. Maybe that's kind of like the best way to say. Okay, and I want to find out, well, how much did it go up? Well, it went up 240%. The original price is 100%, and it went up 240. That's probably the trickiest one on this page. Maybe that's why they give you so much room to do it. This one's not. Number 5 isn't near as bad. Let me check the chat too before I move on. Okay, I'll come back to that question in a minute. Someone's asking a question about unit conversions, but I'll come back to that. Okay, so number 5, what percent less than 210 is 175? Okay, so first thing I need to figure out is what is the percent difference here between these numbers? Like, how much is the percentage going down? So I want to figure out what percent of 210 is 175. That's my first step. This one, again, does have kind of like a tricky part B to it, because what's going to happen here is X is going to be 175 over 210. So I'll get 83.3%. I don't know why I wrote so big there. But that's not the question. It's what is percent less than that? How much is the percent going down? How much is the price going down? So again, this is your final price here. But the question is, how much did it decrease? So I'm going to go 100%. That's always your original price, minus 83.3 repeated percent, and you'll get your answer, 16.67%. The number is 16.6% lower than the original number. It's been decreased by 16.67%. Kind of a little trickier than what we were doing at the beginning of class, but you guys can practice this. I'll leave it here for now. I highly recommend you guys practice some more of these. We can always look at the answers next day, and we will certainly look at some test review next day as well. And then you can see in section 3.2, it kind of gets a bit more real here. What I mean is we're looking at percent preparations. So I won't talk about that today, but we'll start to actually apply this to some medicinal or pharmaceutical preparation questions. So these are a little more challenging, 6, 7, 8, 9, but I highly recommend you practice them. You can always save this for after you write your test. And speaking about your test, there was a question there. It was a private message. A student said, will you give us the unit conversion thing? And I've mentioned this in class a few times. Just let me show you what I'll give you. Just hold on now. Let me open this up. if you go all the way back in the news, so show all news items, there's a lot of news items. But you will be given this unit conversion guide here. I don't know if you can see my screen. There we go. You'll be given this. This is in the news. I'm sorry, I wasn't sharing my screen. So if I go back to the course home and I go show all news items, this is, all the news. So, the old Ramadan schedule, assignment 1, assignment 2. I posted this back in April 26th. So you will be given this chart here to convert between like giga, mega, kilo, things like that. Okay, guys, that's it for me today. If you have any questions, let me know. We can talk or do a bit more review for your test tomorrow. But other than that, that's it. If you have any questions, let me know.
Sir,
Yes.
so you will give us like this in the exam?
Yes.
And sir, we don't have to know that micro is equal 10 power minus 6.
You might need that, like you might have to, like, it's however you want to do the conversions, because that number 10 to the minus 6 is included on this graph, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I'm not telling you you don't need to know that. You just need to know how to use this graph. And if you don't like this graph, you have to use some other way to do unit conversions. But unit conversions are definitely on the test.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
No problem. All right, guys, that's it. Asthma, there's no, I don't think there's a formula sheet present on D2L, but if I can get it done for tomorrow, I can share that with you, but there's nothing yet. Thanks, Calcium. Have a good day. I got to get ready for my other class, guys, but I'll see you all tomorrow, and I can answer more questions about the test tomorrow. Have a good day, everybody. Take care.